I've heard a lot of people say rear drum brakes are difficult for some reason, and just going to kind of show you how easy they actually are to do, and there's no reason to be worried about trying to do them yourself. Basically what you have here is a fixed pin on the top that doesn't move, the wheel cylinder that activates the pressure that applies the shoes. This is the spreader bar that connects to the e-brake lever that allows the emergency brake to work. Down here you have a star wheel adjuster, which adjusts the brakes, and it causes them to expand out as this mechanism ratchets against the star wheel as it self-adjusts as the shoes wear down. You have two different size shoes they have to be aware of: the primary shoe and the secondary shoe. This is off the driver's side, so this is the front shoe, which is the primary. The primary is a little bit shorter than the secondary. The reason they call it the primary is that when you're traveling in a forward direction, so the drum's turning this way, and as it's coming around and you apply the brakes, the wheel cylinder isn't going to spread both of them out. It's only going to push the front shoe, because this shoe will have the drum pushing it against the pin. So as the front shoe comes out, it makes contact first with the drum, and it's called the primary, which causes the brake to apply. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop off the hold down springs, and we're going to get the shoes removed. A couple different tools for this. This tool, you don't absolutely need it, but it makes it a lot easier for getting the hold down springs off. And then this tool is pretty important. It's what actually holds these, or allows you to put these springs on simply, and allows you to remove them easily. So you're just going to stick the tool. Let's see if I can do this all one-handed. And it's going to snap the spring off. And then you're just going to set that off to the side. You do the same thing on this side. And the spring just pops off. On these springs, now I might need two hands. I don't know if I can do this with one hand. Oh, I got it. Look at that, it came off one-handed. See if I can get lucky twice. Sometimes you have to hold the pin on the back. Oh, I got that one too. And now this lever, which is connected to your adjuster, that'll just pop out of there. Take that off, and now your shoes can be removed as a pair from your backing plate. This is actually a little C-clip which holds the lever for the emergency brake on, which I'm going to have to take off in order to remove that. Alright, and then with just a small screwdriver, you should be able to get behind this clip. One-handed, maybe? Yep, there we go. And a C-clip. There we go. Actually, I think it's an E-clip. I think they call it. It's got the three little points. Anyway, that pops out, and that should be the emergency brake lever. Of course, you're going to be stubborn. Alright, there we go. There it is. So one-handed, the shoe set has been removed. Set this off to the side here. Okay, now one thing that's important to note is you have these little spots right here where you can see where it's making metal-to-metal contact. Oop, I just dropped a pin. I'll have to find that. These points have to be cleaned and greased to allow the shoe to kind of have contact with it and not make a squeak. You want to make sure, if you're not replacing your wheel cylinders, I am, so I'm getting new ones, but if you go to push in on it, which, oh, this is a good example, the wheel cylinder is actually frozen. So this should be able to be compressed with your fingers. And yeah, both sides are pretty much frozen and they're not moving. So I'm going to go ahead and get new wheel cylinders for this. I'm actually going to clean and paint these backing plates because they go on this 14 bolt rear end. And once I get that all cleaned up, we'll show you how to put it back together. Okay, so I have the wheel cylinder removed. Just kind of want to show you, I took the rubber cap off of this one. And I mean, as you can see, I'm putting all my force on it, and it isn't moving at all. And when I take off the rubber on this side, the piston actually wants to fall out. And it floats. So that's what they're supposed to do. Those pistons are supposed to move. I actually just let it come all the way out here. This is what actually holds the fluid in. There's this spring behind here and a rubber cup seal. And then the piston is actually just a slug of cast. So the two pieces of cast iron will rust together and the wheel cylinder will seize. So I'm going to throw this back together. Alright, so yeah, the cups are back on, but that's how the wheel cylinders are supposed to operate. They should float. And there's actually a piston on both sides. And both of these pistons were pretty frozen. And you can see the rust coming out of there. It just seized the cast iron together. So I have, this is the driver's side. I got the backing plate mounted on the axle. The wheel cylinder's already installed. And I got the little pins that connect to the shoes pushed in. I'm going to go ahead and get this set up to get ready to put the brakes back on it. So we got ourselves a little bit of brake grease. I'm going to start with this. These little stumps I showed you before. I'm going to take, just put a thin layer of grease on all 6 of these spots. Anywhere there's metal to metal contact on the brakes, you want to put a little bit of lubricant. Just keeps it from making noise, giving you squeaky sounds. Personally, just put a little bit around the pin too. Again, just any bit of lubrication should help reduce noise. So now we have the wheel cylinder installed. Both pins float back and forth. No problem. So what we got here is we got the 6 points greased where the shoe is going to make contact on the backing plate. Primary shoe versus the secondary shoe. Your primary is your shorter one, your secondary is your longer one. I've got the emergency brake cable installed on the secondary. What I'm going to do here is just pop the cable onto the lever, which a lot of times you can just leave this on the cable and you don't have to unhook it. Now I'm going to set my secondary shoe on there. I'm going to take the lever for the star wheel adjuster, so that goes under this spring. And then I'm going to install this hold down spring just like that. I use my thumb to push them on. Sometimes it's easier than the actual tool. We go from there. To kind of keep this in place, I'm going to use this part first. It goes under the springs and attaches to this lever. And just get it hooked. Hook it on this end first. Okay, and now that'll kind of hold the shoe in place and it's not going to let it go anywhere. Alright, this little short spring goes underneath this brake lever. Probably could have put that on before I stuck it in there. Just get this pushed in. Boom. So this is now spring loaded. It's connected to the top pin and the rear shoe is installed. What I do next, and you can do this a couple different ways. This has to be mounted in this position so that the spring doesn't make contact with the star wheel. If you put it upside down like this and you hook this one this direction, the spring will hit the star wheel and it won't adjust. So it's very important that this goes in the right way. Next, what I'm going to do is connect this spring at the bottom here. Get my star wheel set in. I'm going to hook the spring. I'm going to pull my adjuster until that spring holds it in place. Next, I'm going to take this spring. I'm going to bring this up until it gets put into place here. Before I use my finger, I'll try using the tool this time. Like I said, sometimes it's just easier with your finger. But you can put the spring in this tool. And then you can twist it on your pin, like so. Alright. Now you gotta make sure your pistons for your wheel cylinder are in the right holes. Make sure that this is pushed back as far as it'll go. The next step is going to be your spread bar. The spring goes on the shoe and the solid goes on the emergency brake lever. So get that fitted like so. And then your final two springs. This side's kind of held because of this bar. So I always like to put on the front shoe spring first. So you get it in your hole, you take this special tool, it kind of just hooks right in over here, and snap right back in place. You can go down here, do the same thing on this side, hook it up over that, and snap. So the shoes are now installed. Your emergency brake, if it's pulled, I need to get the way, but you see how the emergency brake lever moves the shoes. Next step would be put your drum on and then readjust the brakes until they're just about touching the drum. You don't want them to actually drag, but you don't want it so that way your wheel cylinder has to move a long distance before they make contact. So you want them pretty much right till they're just touching and then back it off a little bit. Pretty simple. And so, most important thing to know, that your emergency brake's not stuck on and that both shoes are seated fully on this pin before you try adjusting it. What can happen is the emergency brake can get stuck. This bar, instead of being loose and having play in it, will actually be too tight and the pins won't touch, or the shoes won't touch the pin completely, and that's something you have to look out for if the emergency brake's stuck on a little bit. But otherwise, that should be it. It's a pretty simple process. So you just got to remember, primaries in the front, secondaries in the rear. Make sure your star wheel adjuster can adjust without interference from the spring hitting it. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.